This is Mr. Kaufman here with a screencast video introducing the Roman Catholic Church in the Middle Ages. In this introductory video, I'm going to focus on the power and influence of the Roman Catholic Church in Europe during the Middle Ages. We're going to start with the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church. The hierarchy is a good vocabulary word that talks about the levels of organization that an institution might have, that deals with the different levels of power. So for example, your school has a hierarchy. At the top of your school hierarchy would be the head of school or the headmaster, followed by a deputy head or a vice head, followed by your principals, vice principals, and then down at the bottom would be some teachers. Now the Roman Catholic hierarchy is headed up by the Pope, who's the supreme leader. The Pope's job is to set policy and to lead the Catholic Church. Below the Pope are the cardinals. The Pope appoints the cardinals, and then the cardinals in return will appoint a new Pope if the Pope were to die or resign. The cardinal's job is to advise the Pope, again, to set policy for the Catholic Church, what ideas, what actions of the Church, what are they going to take. Below that would be your archbishops, and our archbishops are in charge of large regions called archdioceses, and their job, again, is to oversee that region of the world to, again, enact the policies set forth by the Pope inside the Vatican. Below that would be bishops, who would be in control of a smaller region under an archdiocese. In the Middle Ages, they would be the heads of the major cathedrals. And then below that would be the priests, who would be in charge of an individual church. Now you'll see below the hierarchy pyramid we have monks and nuns. Now monks and nuns are part of a religious order, meaning they are devout Catholics who devote their whole life to the Catholic religion, to teaching it and to spreading and learning about the ideas of Catholicism. However, they are not ordained, so they are not part of the church hierarchy. They are not part of the clergy. Now, the church also held a high level of religious power over people in the Middle Ages. And it's really centered around this idea of the control of your destiny, right, your soul's destiny, either through salvation, meaning spending eternity in heaven, or through damnation, meaning your soul will spend eternity in hell. Now, the way they did that is they offered forgiveness for sins. So if you were to sin, go against some of the Catholic teachings, you could then confess your sins and then be forgiven. And that would then lead you to heaven. It would get you out of purgatory faster. And that's where you wanted to be, right? You wanted your soul to spend eternity in heaven. And you, of course, did not want to see your whole spent down in the depths of hell for eternity. Now, the Catholic Church also played a part in just about every major milestone in someone's life, from birth all the way through death. As soon as a baby was born, they would be baptized, which is the first of the 7 sacraments. And it would be a Catholic ceremony in which a baby would be entered into the world, and the sins would be washed away with holy water, followed by communion, marriage or matrimony, all the way up till death, when the holy oils would be placed on someone who's dying, again, to set them towards a path to heaven. And the Catholic Church controlled all of these steps, right, all of these 7 sacraments. Now, the Church also held really a high level of economic power, and they did this through taxes and gifts. It was mandatory during the Middle Ages in Europe that you gave 10% of your wealth to the Church. They also received many grants of land or fiefs from the kings of the time. So much so that the Catholic Church became the the largest landowner in the Middle Ages inside of Europe. Now, currently they're the 3rd largest landowner in all of the world. So you can see the legacy or the leftover economic power of the Church, that they are still the 3rd largest landowner. The number 1 being the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. Her power is mostly ceremonial. Technically, she owns all of Canada, Australia, as well as the Great Britain and the United Kingdom, mostly ceremonial. Now, the Church then also had political power. Nowadays, most countries separate their church from the state, meaning they separate religion from politics, but back then they were one and the same. They were together. The church made laws and enforced laws in courts. They also could excommunicate members of the church, meaning they could get kicked out of the church, which back then essentially meant you would be exiled from the community. And this was true of peasants all the way up through kings. There's a great story where Pope Gregory excommunicates King Henry IV. They had a disagreement over who should appoint church officials. Henry thought it was his role. Gregory said, nope, as Pope, I'm in charge of the clergy. And to show his power, he excommunicated King Henry. And King Henry, which you can see down in the photo below, had to beg for 3 days barefoot in the snow to get back into the church. That story probably exaggerated, but it really enforced this idea that the church held really a high level of power even over kings. Now they also worked with kings. They didn't always fight like Gregory and King Henry, and they would advise kings on policies. They would record, they would write down the legacies or what the king would enact, the laws, and they would work together to govern over certain regions. So that's it for your introduction on the Roman Catholic Church in the Middle Ages in Europe. Again, going over the hierarchy, the leadership of the church clergy, followed by the religious power of the church, the economic power, and the political power. That's it. High Five History.